Thanks to a large technical glitch, I've had to do a voiceover for this first section. I saw this realistic DX160 at a ham radio swap meet. It was only $10, and for that price I couldn't let it go. After getting it here on the bench, I noticed the pointer slipped. The brand spread, also known as fine tuning, doesn't slip, so I'll take a couple of covers off and have a closer look. With the bottom and the back off, I can see the cord for tuning is very loose. Fortunately, I'll be able to rewrap it back onto the post behind the tuning knob. I can tell you wrapping this back on is a bit nerve-wracking. If I break this, I'll have a lot more work to do. One loop wasn't enough, so here goes the second. Now, the pointer moves smoothly back and forth the whole way across the dial. The first thing to do with one of these old things is clean contacts. For that, I'll use a little of what I call liquid technician. Okay, so if any of you are sticklers for continuity, you're probably going to be disappointed because I get to this when I get to this, and it's been perhaps over a month since I've gotten to it, and the last time I didn't have any sound, and I repaired the cord that moves this back and forth. So the next thing we're going to look at here is whether or not it actually receives. So we'll have to turn some stuff on to do that. Starting with getting some power to the radio itself. What I'm going to do turn on the signal generator. I'm going to try different bands here. And right now it's set at 10,000 hertz, 10 kilohertz. And I think what we'd like to see is 250,000 hertz and see if this thing will pick that up. So I'll set this for 250,000. And I'm just going through a resistor. And this resistor is just dangled next to a wire on the antenna. Now I suspect that on this band A down here that covers 250 kilohertz, and by the way I'm using this in CW single sideband mode. I doubt if I'll receive anything, and the main reason I think that is because I don't get much noise. So I'm tuning. That's 0.25 megahertz right there. I don't expect it to be accurate. And down to 150 kilohertz and back up toward 400 kilohertz and nothing. So next we're going to go to band B, which is the AM broadcast band. You notice right away there's more noise. I'm going to switch it to AM. And I'm picking things up.
Shop the natural herbal supplements, alright? Natural herbal supplements, and get a subscription because that's how you save money. Chalk.com.
So this band is working. Let's go to band C. And we'll set, right in the middle is 2.5 megahertz. So I'll zoom this in. If you get that right, then you'll be able to see this frequency. There's 2 megahertz, 2.5. Band C. No noise at all. Nothing. Let's go to band D. Got noise. Maybe I'll pick something up on band D. I'm going to set it for 7 megahertz. It comes in at 6 1/4, but I'm pretty sure that's my generator. It's loud. But I can verify that by changing the frequency on the generator, and I'll change this. So it's receiving. It has some problems, but it's receiving. Oh, there it comes in again. Images. Now that's not as far off there. Try the band spread. Let's see what happens. I put the band spread at... Oh, where's a good spot? 7.3. And it comes in 7.18 or so, something like that. These are very approximate. Looks like it's 150 kilohertz off, and there's also an image. Alright, let's move on to band E. Set the generator to 19 megahertz. So we got partial operation here too, looks like. Now I've already cleaned some contacts. So that's definitely me. So it's not stable. Now let's look at this another way. A local oscillator, mixer and such is pretty high impedance. And I found out that if I stick my probe around in there, I really disrupt the circuit operation. So what I've done is I just have laid it over the top of the capacitor. Just laid it in there. So this is on band E, which was sort of working. You can see that as I tune, I get a good 2.5 divisions. It's FMing a little bit, which is why that's so thick. And but it is changing. Okay, if I go back to band D, I have it there as well, which is a little surprising. So this is actually surprisingly good. That's the entire antenna I'm using right now. Just that. And I'm picking up something from overseas. So it's working a little bit better than I thought. Okay, band C, nothing. Maybe I need to change the time, but not really anything there. Band B, which is AM broadcast, and you can see it. Band A, there's really nothing going on with band A. So, I am going to have to restore local oscillator operation on band A, band C, and do some tuning on D and E. And we'll see how that all works. Okay, I was setting up to do some aligning to see if I could get the local oscillator to work just by moving these adjustments in here, and I found something interesting. I'm going to turn this around and investigate in a moment here. The antenna trim, which on the last one of these I worked on, was just an adjustable cap. And this feels like a switch. And it has a big effect on the noise and on the reading on the scope, which you can't see right now. So I'm going to separate my probe from there, carefully turn this around so I can see the bottom and see if I can see what's going on with that antenna trim that just doesn't feel right. So indeed it is an adjustable capacitor. I'm going to look a little closer at that and see if I can figure out why that would make so much difference. I'll do that. Power off and radio unplugged. Since this thing looked like it was dropped, who knows what odd things I will find. I'm looking in the service manual right now to look at the schematic and see where that trim is. As strange as that knob felt when I moved this around, I thought it might be a good idea to see if the plates on this variable capacitor were shorted. And they do not appear to be. Everything reads open. On my 40-year-old digital ohm meter. So I think it's just more evidence that this local oscillator is most likely significantly out of tune. And we're going to start having a look at these various, actually up here, these various inductors and capacitors. It's mostly capacitors on top. The generator set for 400 at the bottom of the band. That's the first adjustment they want us to make. I hang my signal generator over the antenna lead. Turn this back on. When I hit the sweet spot on a tuning, or on the antenna trim, I should say, I get a whole lot of signal, but the noise goes away. Changes with the local oscillator. So that is local oscillation. It's nice and clean on the scope, which is kind of surprising. Aha. It's actually behaving the opposite of what I would expect. I'm tuning all the way down to the other end right now. At no time did I pick up my signal at 400 kilohertz. So, something I'm curious about, I don't know if you can see it, but this is reading 381.054 kilohertz. If we look in our manual, we will find what the IF frequency is. It's 455. So a 455 would be the difference between the local oscillator frequency and the frequency tuned to. So that is definitely not the correct frequency. In fact, that's probably quieting. It's probably making it through the IF because it's really too close to 455, 381. That should be something like 55 kilohertz. I'm not even sure if they're using high side or low side injection. Or it should be 855 kilohertz. But anyway, 381 is way too high. And that's why it quieted down. It should not be oscillating at that frequency. Okay, so what I got going now, I got the scope hooked up, and even though the scope affects the frequency of the local oscillator, it does detect that it's there, that it's working, and nothing is coming through these two components. You got C37. This couples it from the local oscillator tank circuit into the mixer. T11, which is one of the adjustments, and there's a trimmer on the other side that I was adjusting before. So I'm thinking that if we don't have an actual problem in the with one of these components like T11 or C31, I'm thinking it's more likely we're back looking at this switch, which is a typical problem with these switching between bands. So I might try to do a little more cleaning on there. And it's this back bank. I've already sprayed contact cleaner in there. I don't know if I can get an eraser in there. Erasers make great burnishing tools if you can get them in to where they need to be. No, you can't really. Okay, I've decided to hit this thing with some solder. It's so intermittent, and just basically reheat some of these. I'm not really quite sure if I'm going to be able to show this to you and solder these at the same time. But the actual local oscillator works on some of the other bands. So it's not the transistors, the active components in the local oscillator itself. It's got to be in the switching or in the support components. I am putting out signal at 250 kilohertz. The dial says 240. Pause and clean up a little. Okay, I rearranged. We're talking about TC6 as being this one right here. It's also CT6. they have it labeled the other way. So that kind of goes like this. And I'm off frequency. You can hear when I tune it in there. The dial's reading about 380. So I'm going to see if I can coax it a little closer to frequency here. I moved it off the other side. I'll just keep doing this until that dial's pretty close to 400 kilohertz. Next, they want 350 and 180. So perhaps it's time to try a different generator. Okay, so I set my RF signal generator, TSG17, to 350 hertz. It's got the analog dial, so that makes it not too easy to set. But I use the oscilloscope to check what the frequency was. That has a built-in counter. And right now I am at 351 kilohertz. And I'm not going to worry too much about 1 kilohertz off since this is an analog system. You can tell I'm receiving something. It's not quite full on the S meter. So there's what the scope's looking at, and I know I'm not tied in directly, so I can see it changing when I change a dial. And then one spot here just dies. So it's actually picking up something here. I don't know if it's picking up the right thing or not. Alright, so we're going to put this to 13 as specified. I'll be careful of that. I'll set this to 13. And first thing I'm going to do is just start dialing and see if I can dial it up. Alright, I've decided to replace some capacitors. I wouldn't mind replacing 39, 40, 41, and 42, but I only have values for 40 and 42. So, what we'll try replacing those and see if it tunes up better. At least I've got it receiving on all the bands. So now I'm going to do the trimmers. And I've already did band A. I'm going to do band B here. And we'll start off at 1400 kilohertz. And they want you to use modulated for this. And I think that's actually a good idea this time to use modulated signal. And I'll be looking at the S meter and adjusting so far. So I'm going to pause it a minute while I adjust my generator. Alright, so my generator is not very precise, at least the one that I'm using for creating a modulating signal. Here it is right here. And if I focus this thing in a little bit, there you can see it. I don't have a lot of control over that. As you can see, it's an analog dial, so it's just an approximation. The RF output level is screwdriver adjustable, but it's not calibrated at all. And I can either turn the modulation on or off. I don't have much control of it. So what I do is I bring that over to the scope, and with it unmodulated, I will read what the frequency is on the scope. It reads up in that upper left-hand corner, which in this light you can't really... There we go. Up in the upper right-hand corner. And if I turn off the modulation, which I've got to do right now, then it'll come in. I've got it set to about 1418. There's a radio station down there that's right. It's within range of 1400 that it picks up, and I know 1400 is where they want us to make the adjustment. So I'm going to go a little higher than that. This is mostly for gain, not for frequency control. So I'm going to modulate it again. That scopes are one frequency devices. There's the adjustment. Still in pretty good focus for that. You can hear my signal. They're talking about TC2 or 1400. They're talking about CT2 up around 1400. That's this one right here, second one in. And that's about as good as it's going to get right there. Turn the page. And now they're talking about the transformer right next to it. Go down to 600. Now to make sure that's mine, I can turn on and off the modulation. That's it. The dial's a little off down here. Not too bad though. Next one is go on to band D. Alright, so I've got it set for 12. And we're looking at S units now. Big improvement there. Big improvement. Okay, for the last thing will be the IF. Okay, I just had a heck of a time getting this generator adjusted to something in the neighborhood of 455 kilohertz. And that's the mark right there for where 455 should be. And over here, you can see where it's actually set. And I used my my scope to figure out that it was at 455. So anywhere I'm at, I'm going to radiate into the, it doesn't really matter what frequency I'm set to, I'm going to radiate directly into the intermediate frequency IF section here. So right here are the connections for the antenna. I put just a short piece of wire on there so I could pick up tuning signals. That's really short. It's just like that long. All right, but what the repair is, right there. That's not actually connected where it should be connected. That should be connected right down here. DX160 is complete. It receives on all bands. So we're on our way to Danville to deliver it to Tom. Hello. We got one freshly rejuvenated, or not, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.